Alright, today the final beta 4.5 v5 has officially been released, and as expected, there are several interesting changes that we need to discuss together. As always, all of the information we'll be covering in this video comes from a reliable source, Nanoka. In the previous video, we took a comprehensive look at the preliminary kit of one of the most highly anticipated upcoming characters, Nihilix. If you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend checking it out first. This time, however, our main focus is Beta 4.5, where we'll be going over the changes made to Robin Summer and Aventurine Wave Flare in the final Beta 4.5 v5. So, without further ado, let's begin with Robin Summer. In Beta 4.5 v5, Robin Summer received several adjustments that unfortunately lean more toward the nerf side. This honestly isn't too surprising. Throughout almost the entire beta cycle, Robin received buff after buff with nearly every update. Now that we've reached the final beta version, Hoyoverse has decided to tone down a few parts of her kit to make her overall performance a bit more balanced. The first change is to her base stats. Out of all of Robin Summer's base stats, only one has been adjusted, her base speed. Unfortunately, this is a nerf. Previously, Robin Summer had 98 base speed. In Beta v5, that value has been reduced to 95. Next, let's move on to her Memo Sprite talent. Once again, the adjustment here is also a nerf. Mechanically, the talent works exactly the same as before. None of its core functionality has changed. The only difference is in the numbers. Previously, while the summer songbirds were on the field, all enemies would receive 10%, 15%, or 20% increased damage taken, depending on how many songbirds were present. Now, those values have been reduced to 8%, 12%, and 16%, respectively. In other words, the damage taken debuff Robin provides is now slightly weaker than before. Although the reduction is only around 2 to 4% depending on the stage, this type of modifier still has a noticeable impact on the team's overall damage output. Next, let's move on to her Eidolons. Out of Robin Summer's 6 Eidolons, only 2 received adjustments in Beta v5. Let's start with Eidolon 2. This change is another nerf. Previously, this Eidolon granted 20% all-type respen to all allies. Now, that value has been reduced to 18%. Everything else remains exactly the same, so the only adjustment is the amount of respen provided. The final change Robin Summer received is on Eidolon 6. Now, before we continue, it's worth mentioning that the change from all-type respen to Memo Sprite skill damage isn't actually new. That adjustment was already introduced back in Beta v4, so we won't be covering it again here. The actual v5 change affects Robin's energy regeneration mechanic. Previously, whenever Robin entered the fever state for the first time or when the fever countdown started its turn, she regenerated 140 energy, and that energy could benefit from energy regeneration rate. Now, however, the description has been changed to a fixed amount of 140 energy. In other words, Robin still recovers 140 energy, but that value is now fixed and can no longer be increased through energy regeneration rate. And that's every change Robin Summer received in the final Beta 4.5 v5. Now let's move on to Aventurine Wave Flare. Unlike Robin Summer, who finally started receiving nerfs, Aventurine Wave Flare continues to receive buffs all the way to the final beta version. Let's begin with his signature light cone. The 18% crit rate bonus remains completely unchanged. However, after the wearer uses an elation skill, the speed bonus has been increased from 20% to 24%. And that's not all. The second effect has also been buffed. Previously, if the elation skill used was different from the previous one, the wearer gained 36% elation. That value has now been increased to 40%. So overall, every change made to his signature light cone is a pure buff with no drawbacks whatsoever. Next, let's move on to Aventurine's main kit. The first adjustment is on his elation skill. However, it's important to note that only the enhanced elation skill was changed. The normal elation skill remains exactly the same. The overall effect is unchanged, but now, for every point of fervor consumed, Aventurine deals one additional instance of 21% quantum elation damage to a random enemy. Previously, each additional hit only dealt 18%. After that, let's move on to Aventurine's traces. Out of all 3 traces, only Trace 3 received an adjustment. And once again, it's a buff. Previously, Aventurine gained 1 fervor whenever an ally used a basic attack, skill, follow-up attack, or ultimate. Now, he gains 2 fervor instead. This significantly improves Aventurine's synergy with mono-male teams, especially alongside Ashvale and Emblade, allowing him to build fervor much more quickly. And that's the final change Aventurine Wave Flare received. Interestingly, none of his eidolons were adjusted. That means every buff introduced in V5 is immediately available to all players, including those who only plan to use him at E0. If we summarize everything introduced in the final beta 4.5 V5, the overall result is quite clear. Robin Summer finally received her first set of nerfs after being buffed throughout almost every previous beta iteration. Fortunately, most of these nerfs are fairly minor, although they do make her slightly weaker than before. On the other hand, Aventurine Wave Flare once again received buffs to several important parts of his kit. His signature light cone, enhanced elation skill, and Trace 3 have all been improved, making his overall performance look even stronger, especially for players who only intend to use him at E0. It's also worth remembering that Beta V5 is the final beta phase. In other words, there shouldn't be a Beta V6. The next stage is Creator Experience, where any remaining adjustments are typically limited to wording or localization changes rather than gameplay balance. So, there's a very good chance that what we're seeing now is the final version of both Robin Summer and Aventurine Wave Flare before they officially arrive on the live servers. So, what do you think about all the changes introduced in Beta 4.5 V5? Do you think the nerfs Robin Summer received are still reasonable and won't significantly affect her overall performance? Or do you feel that the continuous buffs Aventurine Wave Flare has received have made him a much more attractive character than before? Be sure to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, because I'm really interested to see what everyone thinks. And with that, we've reached the end of today's discussion. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Don't forget to share this video with your fellow Honkai Star Rail players so they don't miss any of the latest updates. Your support through likes and subscribes means a lot to the growth of this channel and allows me to continue creating informative content in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next discussion.